Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today spawning in the north corner of the map playing in blue, we've got Gully Deckle playing as the English, and his opponent in the south playing in red, we've got Tired Soldier playing as the Byzantines. Welcome everyone to Dry Arabia. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world, hopefully you're having a fantastic day, and today we are going to be having a classic matchup, a great matchup, the English versus the Byzantines, on what I would argue the bread and butter of the Age of Empires 4 maps, Dry Arabia. Lots to talk about, of course, the English civilization typically having settled into the new meta in the most recent patch, often opting for the Abbey of the Kings, getting the free king from that landmark, and then opting for a second town centre behind it into a castle age to then look for challenging those relics, working their way up to the Imperial Age late game. The Byzantines, on the other hand, have a couple of options about them. They can look to try and match that. I mean, one thing to bear in mind is actually a lot of civilization matchups do have one civilization that's a bit more dominant in terms of looking to do what they want to do and the other civilization having to stop that. And I think in this particular interaction between the English and the Byzantines, it certainly feels like the English have that place, right? They have this ability to get that two-town centre going with the Abbey of the Kings, and it's often that they're going to do what they want to do on that regard. So it's up to the Byzantines and enemies or the English that play in Age of Empires 4 to try and challenge that. Now bear in mind, I feel like the Byzantines are actually in a good spot to do that because they get access to two landmarks. They get the Grand Winery and the Imperial Hippodrome, and I feel like actually in this particular matchup is one scenario where the Imperial Hippodrome can be very, very good. The reason why is because it piles a bit of pressure nice and early, acts as a stable, you can get the horsemen out, gives you early expilatores, which is an upgrade for the horse, and that gives them extra damage, but also gives them gold income if they do kill villagers, which is possibly what they want to do. Having said that, the English are a civilization that have great defenses, of course with an extra arrow slit in the town centre, network of castles bonus, the early warning system, and so defense is kind of built into the English civilization very, very well. And there it is, there is the Imperial Hippodrome for the Byzantines, and it will be the Abbey of the Kings for the English. It will also be a second town centre behind this. You can see the villagers going out onto stone to gather enough for that second town centre. So the question will be, and it looks like it's going to be addressed, is that it's going to be aggression coming out for the Byzantines to try and challenge that second town centre play for the English. I got to say it's a tricky one, right? Because the English typically place that second town centre close to home. You know, they don't have to venture out too far because they can make farms cheaply. So they don't necessarily need to secure the other sources of food like the deer camp. Although this would be a very nice place for a second town centre. Just unlikely though, because the second town centre only has 2,500 HP on it, and only has 7 garrisonable spots for the villagers, so there's not a lot of protection, hence why they want to keep it quite close to home. And if that is the case, if he does place the second town centre close to home, it'd be very difficult for the Byzantines to actually stop and raid and kill villagers. We shall see how he tries to navigate this. So yeah, I mean, whilst the Imperial Hippodrome is good at doing that, putting early pressure, the question is how much value will he get, and of course he's foregoing the benefits of the Grand Winery, which is a great landmark if it gets to the mid to late game, getting extra olive oil, 60% in fact, from the berries being gathered and the olive grove transitions. We shall see how this one pans out. Now, I'd like to say a very big thank you for everyone who's been supporting the channel, whether it be on YouTube or Twitch. You guys are absolute legends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And one thing that's really been helping, like if you can, just take a second just to leave a comment in the video description, not the video description, the comment section, of course, for a your favorite emoji, whatever it may be. Just drop it in there because it really actually helps on the engagement side of things. Oh no, Gully losing the sheep. I mean, he doesn't have a second scout, right? So can't mop that up. And to be fair, the scout's pretty far away for Tired Soldier, but he will make it there, I'm sure, and pick up most of those sheep. But yeah, just drop in your favorite emoji in the comment section below. It really helps me out. I've noticed in the most recent videos that that's been done. It's been showing signs that YouTube shows the videos to people who don't necessarily haven't necessarily watched Age of Empires 4 but might be interested in other RTS, and so it's really growing the community that way. It means more eyes on Age of Empires 4, it means more players potentially, it means a more healthy community. It helps everyone really, and it's totally free. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And the Abbey of the Kings now will then start to queue up that king unit for free, of course. In terms of mercenary contracts, which would be kind of cool for the Byzantines, it looks like it's going to go for, I just missed out on checking what that was. It's going to be the Western mercenary contract with longbowmen, which is kind of cool to see, right? So you're going to see the English longbowmen against themselves. And kind of cool thing for the Byzantines is they can escalate units quite quickly, right? From the mercenary house, but also production. Considering he's getting the second tier water level For the cistern, we'll be getting an extra 4% gather rate and also the extra production. I think that's something really, really nice to see. Bear in mind, like, the great thing about the Byzantines in an extended feudal age is that they have a great economy behind it. More so, better economy than the English. The English economy really revolves around the cheaper farms and the increased gather rate of food from it. It takes a bit of time for that to really start to come into the game, right? You need about sort of 8-9 minutes before the farms actually come on in and do some work for the English. So the advantage certainly is in favor of the Byzantines in the early game when it comes to economy. But of course, that second town centre for Galidekul will start to kick in, and those village accounts will start to show a bit of a disparity between them, and obviously the English will start to increase their village count, and that will come into play as well. What's kind of cool to think about as the game develops as well is in terms of army composition. The English typically want to go for that sort of man-at-arms play in the late game, and we have seen some games recently where actually the English open up cavalry. And the reason for that is to try and force the enemy into the spearman line of units, and then transition into man-at-arms. What I would say is that it's a bit tricky against the Byzantines, because their limitane are incredibly strong. They're really good, actually, in fact, in terms of scalability compared to, most units that don't cost gold. Most units that don't cost gold don't scale too well, like the archers, the horsemen. They kind of, fall out of fashion in the castle age. You typically want your, your knights, your heavily armored units, man-at-arms. But limitane, they can hold their own in a pretty decent way. There are a couple of feudal age units that are like that. The Chukunu for the Jushi Legacy and the Chinese, and then you've got well, that's kind of the main ones, really. You've got javelin throwers that do a decentish job, but again, they're not the best. But yeah, Chukunu and certainly Limitane hold pretty well as a scalable unit as the ages proceed. Of course, though, Limitane won't be measuring up against heavily armored units in terms of man-at-arms, which is something that the English could try and leverage, right? If the English do open cavalry, force the enemy into Limitane, and then go for man-at-arms, it will still be pretty decent for them as a strategy. Instead, though, he's going to go for the barracks and archery range, so could go for the longbowman spearman type of play and be more defensive, which is understandable, right? Because with cavalry, you really want to use those as a mobility unit if you're going to be doing some damage, which of course the English won't be doing with a second town center play here. They're going to have to be a bit more defensive, which is not necessarily a bad thing for them because they do it pretty well anyway. So, yeah. Look to try and raid with a couple of horsemen here, soldier. And it's actually kind of important that he does get some damage out of this. One thing to bear in mind in terms of TC placement, whilst it is on the gold vein, it doesn't actually stop this pressure coming on in. So he's actually going to stop the gold mining and will force Galidekul into an extended feudal age. It does lose the king as well, unfortunately. Diving a little bit too close for comfort. Gully uses that free unit. There's 200 resources there, by the way. So it takes 200 resources to make another. Does use the triumph ability with the Byzantine Imperial Hippodrome. Diving on in, and unfortunately he's running into a couple of spears. Does take out one villager though. In fact, it's taken 3 in total, which is quite nice. Picked off, I think, a couple with longbows earlier. It's a good start, actually, to be honest. Now, I love the triumph ability. It's actually really powerful. It consumes supply points, but it increases the cavalry damage by +4 and also movement speed, and also helps it regenerate some health. So it's pretty nice. We talk about the longevity of the Grand Winery and giving extra olive oil, but having this benefit for the Byzantines will benefit the cavalry as the game wears on. Did lose a couple of horsemen here in the north, but he has killed 4 workers, so that's pretty decent as it goes going. Trouble is, Byzantines have to do the damage just to be able to stop the second town center getting kind of a bit out of control. Galidekul looks like he's housed. Can he need to rush a house here? Yeah, there it is. Housed a bit temporarily, but we'll build it up and get on going once again. Double broad axe coming in for the Byzantines, and what's kind of cool about this matchup, by the way, something to bear in mind, is both civilizations trickle in those farms. Well, of course, the Byzantines are olive groves. And the reason why that's nice is because it means that the action will... whilst it's a little bit slow in the start, because, English open up 2 town centre, it does start to ramp up. And it keeps on going. A lot of civilizations that kind of prioritize the deer camp boar eventually have a hard farming transition, and then there's kind of a pause in terms of unit production. That's not the case with the English and the Byzantines. They keep on ramping up, and they've a really smooth economy behind them. Now, bear in mind this playstyle, 1 TC for the Byzantines. It looks like he's going to go for the Castle Age and look to pick up those relics. I quite enjoy this playstyle. Quite a few civilizations tend to do this, where they go for a Castle Age challenge the relics, and then they typically add in a second town centre. So I'm fully expecting to see the Byzantines go for a second town centre in the Castle Age. And what's kind of nice about it is that when the Byzantines do place foundations for certain structures, they get a bit of stone for it. Now, they can play this, use the stone for extra cisterns, or they can even try and save up for that second town centre. I love the usage of the Western Mercenary contract for the Longbowmen. Like, you don't necessarily get a huge mass of them, especially when you open up your Imperial Hippodrome rather than your Grand Winery, because of course Grand Winery gives you the extra 60%, which you now don't have as the Imperial Hippodrome. But the Longbowmen are still very decent of just trying to snipe out those spearmen, right? Obviously has to get on that side, but they can still continue to put pressure on this wood line as well. So I love this play by Tired Soldier, just denying this wood line, and it's kind of a problem situation actually, because Gully doesn't really have another safe wood line to gather easily from. And yeah, I mean, the castle should be coming in pretty soon for the Byzantines, and you should have good map positioning. Struggling a little bit on gold, and in fact actually prioritizing the gold upgrade, which is going to delay his castle age time a little bit because of the gold, but overall will play back for itself pretty quickly. Going to dive in with the horseman, should pick up one villager. He does, nicely played there by Tired Soldier. Should pick up another. I think maybe, just maybe, it looks like he's got Exploratores actually. Yeah, he does, so he's getting... He's getting gold from this, which is very nice. Very nice indeed. Alright, well there it is. There's the activation of the Triumph once again. Because every villager is getting 20 gold out of it. He's going to kill quite a few of these longbows. Spearmen are good numbers. He's got to be careful not to lose too many of these horsemen. Diving on that wood line though, so might get yet another villager. And you can see once he does kill a villager, he gets 20 gold injected in. You can see it in the counter up the north and north of the screen, top of the screen. There we go, another villager killed. 11 villagers so far, which is actually really nice. That's the great benefit of having Exploratores as the Byzantines. Oh, lost a horseman there for free though. So it kind of trades away, right? Because you kill villagers, but you also get 20 gold from it as well. Really softens the blow of losing these units. Pretty nifty upgrade actually, I've got to say. There it is, there's the Golden Horn Tower. Going to be building up with 8 villagers to get their quick time. Looks like it's going to be maybe a Varangian Guard transition, with the double barracks being placed down, which is a nice transition for sure. Talk about transitions, holy smokes, that's a lot of farms. And that is going to be beautiful. Oh, it's a bit of a shame for that house, right? It is what it is. That little house just nipping the corner, the farm placement, but it is what it is. But yeah, certainly this number of farms is going to pay for itself very quickly, and it's going to be having a really strong economy behind this. In fact, now that the players are sort of edging towards that Castle Age, let's take a look at the food income per minute. That doesn't tell you the full story, because it's only just recently the farms have been placed, so that food income will really escalate very quickly, very soon. Now, speaking of which, the Byzantines have been able to venture out onto the berries. Yeah, so he's gone out to the berries, and means that he's going to get a bit more olive oil as well. Could potentially think about getting for the deer camp just to slowly gather more food and hold off that olive grove transition for as long as possible, because at this point the Byzantines are actually putting a lot of pressure, and with the Castle Age coming on in, he needs to focus on getting many units and just to make sure he gets as many relics as possible. The thing is, he will need to drop a monastery with the Imperial Hippodrome. You forego the Grand Winery, and the Grand Winery is a structure that can actually build those monks. Instead, Tired Soldier will need to drop down a monastery, which is not really a problem. It's got plenty of wood to do so. It's going to be the White Tower for Gully Deckle to get to the Castle Age. Yeah, no real surprises there, right? It's going to protect a lot of the farms, which is fantastic. And I think this stage, this matchup's probably going to go to the mid to late game. We typically expect it anyway, but there's been a lot of damage coming in for the soldier. Killing quite a few villages already, 11 of them. But slowly but surely, Gully Deckle is scaling that economy. A good 9 villager lead. Surely, of course, the Cistern will be counteracting that a little bit. The gather rate on that 14% at the moment, about to increase to 18% with the water level coming up to water level 3. But also, more importantly, it's going to be scaling well with the production capabilities, increasing the production rate. Diving in there a little bit there with his horsemen. On top of that wood line, I love the fact that he's peeling off units. He's doing this quite frequently, actually. Getting a bunch of horsemen to fight off the army, and then a couple of horsemen just to raid and kill villagers. And each time he does kill a villager, bear in mind, he's getting 20 gold. It's pretty huge. It's a good raid. It's causing a bit of idle time, but with the White Tower involved and the capital town centre fully garrisoned, there's probably not too much more value that these horsemen will get. But he's still killing villagers, actually, to be fair. He's managing it. He's killed 13 so far. There's only an extra 2, to be fair, from what it was before that little raid. But those are kind of throwaway units. We talk about scalability of units. The horsemen, longbows, they're pretty decent, to be fair, but the Byzantines wanted to just throw them away, and now he's got Varangian guards anyway to help protect the relics. I mean, there was a potential maybe he could have kept those horsemen alive just to protect the relics a bit more, but he feels confident that the English aren't going to push out, so it's understandable. Does he actually have a monastery yet? That's the question. There is the second town centre, and there is the monastery out around the back, and yeah, this is kind of what we expected to see from the Byzantines. It's going to keep up with the village count a little bit and see the game to the mid to late game, really. And of course, if he does get a couple of extra relics compared to his opponent, that's going to help bridge that economy difference. Do you see the movement into man at arms though from the English? That can be painful against the Byzantines, but they do have their own Varangian guards. I'm kind of interested to see how much he's going to use the berserking ability. He can swap their two-handed weapons to do +6 damage for 30 seconds, but it reduces their armor by 4. Build a monastery there. Of course, the quicker tick up for the Byzantines means that the monastery would have gone up a little bit quicker, and of course those Byzantine Varangian guards probably won't last for too long there. Network of castles bonus helping out. Looks like there's one monk moving north to pick up that relic, and that's probably a good thing if you can pick that up, because a lot of aggression coming in that position. Gali Decolo, the farms are coming online. Look at the food income. Double. We talked about this, right? It only took a minute or two and the farms are ripping through that food. There's not going to be a villager going hungry at all in the English economy today. Not for a long time. At least the Byzantines can get some damage in. It's actually going for the counterfract. Now, this is actually one of my most favourite units in the game. Not only because it's a great unit in terms of stats. Like, it's an incredibly tanky unit. 360 HP and does 27 damage. Obviously, it's very expensive. But what you get with it as well is a trample ability. I'm kind of looking forward to see this, because what it allows the Byzantines to do is to get a massive infantry, and they don't necessarily have to worry about enemy mangonels or enemy siege. The reason for that is that these counterfacts can trample through the defensive lines of the English today to get on top of any siege that might be there. Often a lot of players protect their siege by getting units to surround the siege, and so it means you can't get clean contact with melee units. But the counterfacts, they just ignore that and they just, trample on through. What he won't want to ignore are these man-at-arms just trickling on forward, and you can see Galideckel looking to try and get himself on the map. But should be picking up the second relic as well. Now, looks can be deceiving. Look at the trample there, beautiful to see. They're going to trample right on top of the crossbows just because of how much HP that these counterfacts have. He's focusing on the crossbows first, which is definitely the right play. Might need to back away with the counterfacts for now. He's got a couple of longbows, but the longbows kind of tickle these man-at-arms. So I'd be kind of curious to see if he does start to look to get maybe some extra different type of units, like Landsknechte for in terms of the mercenaries. It's always a possibility, because the longbows, I'm not so sure how well they'll scale here, considering how many man-at-arms are popping on the field. He's dropped one relic off already here. Tired Soldier, looking to get 2 more. Varangian guards have activated their Berserk, and they're charging on through. And actually, to be fair, with this number of Varangian guards and also counterfacts, he should be fine. In fact, I think Tired Soldier would win this fight. In the meantime, Gali is getting that Sacred Site on the right side. He's actually captured it. Does have one relic in the back of the base, nicely protected. So does Tired Soldier, and with 2 more relics on the way, it feels like it should be a 4 relic game for the Byzantines, which is pretty hefty. The reason why that's so significant, of course, is because the English do actually have access to the passive generation of gold from the farms, the enclosures technology in the Imperial Age. Obviously, we're not there yet, but in terms of late game economy, it's actually really powerful. But the Byzantines have already picked up 4 relics to help counteract that. It's actually really solid to get those relics in nice and early. And of course, he's added in that second town center. So whilst he is behind the villagers, eventually that won't necessarily be a big deal as long as he can survive the next 20 minutes or so. Speaking of which, those counterfacts charging on in the back line of those crossbows. Man-at-arms trying to charge in on those longbows, as long as they're pretty exposed, actually, got to say. A couple of Varangian guards getting involved. There's a couple of Landsknechte. I love that switch, by the way, because it feels like they're going to get more value in the fights. And I think counterfacts are tanking so much and they're doing so much work here. I think longbows picking off the crossbows. That's actually a really good play. Definitely focusing on where the unit's strengths are. And a great micro there by Tired Soldier overall. Is going to win that fight massively, especially with the Landsknechte added on in. And it just shows you the power of these counterfacts. Incredible. Now, because of the power of the counterfacts and how much HP they have, I would love to see a couple of monks being added into the fights. Not necessarily just to actually, just basically to heal up these units. It's kind of a mechanic that the Order of the Dragon use quite a lot. When you have units with a lot of HP pooling into them, it's very hard for your enemy to one-shot them, right? So they have this longevity about them. And imagine healing this counterfact back to full health again. It's incredible value. And of course, the healing is free. I'll tell you what though, water level 5 is going to be perfect. It's going to be absolutely fantastic for the Byzantines. 26% gather rate on these villagers. And whilst he's got a villager deficit, I don't think he's really that behind on economy. I mean, look at the income. It's pretty decent on the gold. I mean, it's pretty poor on the food in terms of the Byzantines, but considering he's about 1,000 head in terms of gold income, You know, the English are 1,000 ahead on food, so it kind of counterbalances. But obviously, you're talking about balance. The balance of the economy for the Byzantines not quite right, you feel. Feels like it does need a lot more food coming in. Probably need an olive grove transition, which is kind of scary, right? Because you'll be getting food and olive oil. And so you should be able to get a decent number of you know, mercenaries with that. Bear in mind, he's got 2 of the sacred sites as well. So a lot of the gold is coming in passively. Obviously, 26 villagers mining as well is pretty hefty. Now, speaking of gold, in terms of the 20-minute mark of the game, we start to think about the 8,000 tile gold veins here in the middle of the map that he's probably looking to try and secure. I love the fact that Tired Soldier has a lot of stone in the bank, possibly looking to get a keep. That could be powerful. Can take the fight in the middle, but of course Galdeco won't win that. And back at home, those farms, they're looking so good. Getting 2,500 food per minute now. That's pretty hefty. Now, the outposts are actually really beneficial for the Byzantines. Of course, it gets the extra line of sight and vision, which is perfect. You want that in the middle of the map, but also it does have the capability of getting mangonel emplacements, which is great at dealing with mass infantry type based armies, which the English typically tend to do. And we do start to see some mangonels. I'm enjoying seeing that because it means that we should hopefully get some trample abilities from the cataphract jumping on top of that. If you micros it well, Tired Soldiers could pick off some really important units. Some very expensive units that the English have right now. A couple more cataphracts joining the fight. Very population efficient unit as well. Alright, he's getting that keep in the middle of the map, which is a kind of curious decision to go for that rather than going for the keep on the gold veins. To be fair, he does have outposts on the gold veins, which certainly helps. This one's a bit exposed, but he wants that middle position, right? He doesn't want his enemy to just waltz on in through the center, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And a matchup like this, where both civilizations get to the late game, like, both armies are going to go head-to-head right in the middle, so it can be a bit dangerous. Now, the kind of question is that it looks like Gully Decor's appearing to go to the Castle Age, Imperial Age soon, rather. Same for the Byzantines, to be fair. And kind of landmark choices is going to be key here. I kind of expect Gully Decor to go for the Wingard Palace. It's a landmark that's actually fantastic in terms of getting access to really good late game units, including the Wingard Footmen. That could come into play here. And of course, the Byzantines, they have a couple of options actually. They could go for the Palatine School, could potentially go for the landmark gets the Great Siege. The name just skips my head for a moment there, but I'm sure it'll come back in a moment. And you could spend olive oil to get those great siege engines, whether it be the Royal Cannons, the Hui Hui Pow, Mr. Bees maybe. Oh, it's the Foreign Engineering Company, isn't it? Yeah, that's what it is from the top. I just remembered. I knew it would come back to me. Getting plenty of production. This is where it becomes scary for the English, and the ability for the Byzantine to pump out units is incredible, especially in the late game when you start to think about, when you start gauging massive fights, it all comes down to like how capable is your civilization at reproducing that army or replacing it. There's 2 factors. There's the ability to actually fund it in terms of resources, and there's the actual ability to produce it in terms of actual build speed of your production structures. And of course, the Byzantines with the 5th water level, 100% extra, boosting on the production rate on all these these buildings. It's very difficult to not be able to produce quick enough for the Byzantines. All they need really is the economy. And of course, with the Imperial Age in for the English, gone up with the Wingard Palace, will give access to the footmen, as we can see. He is now looking to train them. And also looking to get enclosures, of course, as soon as possible. It's going to be the Palatine School for the Byzantines. It's a nice choice, right? You get a kind of a choice when you train these units with Limitano, Varangian Guards, Cataphracts, or Karasiphon. There's a 30% chance of also spawning one at the landmark. It's actually quite nice if you can get some of those premium units. Speaking of premium units, there's a lot of Cataphracts actually. Beautiful to see. A relatively passive moment in the game, but we know what that means, right? It means that there's going to be a lot of aggression coming in soon. With both players going to the Imperial Age, likely to look to try and get those Imperial Age upgrades, of course. And I gotta say, the cataphracts going to elite status. These guys are gonna look absolutely phenomenal. Like, if you think the armor looks good already, check them out with the Imperial Age. Just about to switch now. Look at that. They look absolutely epic. I gotta say, the new civilizations that's come with the Sultan's Ascend DLC, a lot of the skins, the armor work, the visuals are absolutely fantastic, right? You've got the Order of the Dragon, which are like signature. They look amazing, those units. But take a look at the cataphract. And there was 2 mangonels there. I wouldn't be surprised to see those cataphracts charge and trample on through. It's going to be great to see potentially here. Going to raid a little bit. Unfortunately, those villagers won't get the walls up, and does leave them a little bit exposed, potentially being attacked. Just sending a group of army on the right side. Some Wingguard footmen there, I think. No, mostly men-at-arms. Oh, there's one Wingguard footman. Going to try and dive on that goal, but cataphracts have been chasing, so he's aware of it. But it just, obviously, border settlements gives him a lot of vision. I don't think he's going to achieve too much out of this. The cataphracts will chase, of course, extra movement speed. And just denying the walls on the west side with a couple of horsemen. Nice unit placement on the map, I got to say, for the Byzantines. He's got a couple of Chirosyphons prepped and ready to go as well. I love that play, by the way. A lot of players just dive on in with their units, but having siege engines behind this does structural damage, right? So it's one thing pushing in with units, but behind it, if you've got siege engines, they can take out infrastructure from the English, and that's very hard for them to replace at times. That's where the real damage output comes in, right? Because it's very rare that often you just kill the enemy with pure units. I mean, it can happen. But the English defense is so strong that actually kind of often needs siege engines. Speaking of which, a couple of siege engines for the English, moving on out with the rest of the army. He's making a dash for the gold, he needs it. Now, there isn't actually any emplacements inside the outpost, so it's mostly just for vision here for Tired Soldier, but he's aware of it now. He's moving out there now. Our problem for the English is that keep, I'm not so sure it goes up. Cataphracts at home. Defender's advantage, of course, going to clear that up, and this is a problem. He's going to lose a couple of villages. More important, he might lose the keep. Oh, he's burning on the keep. That's huge. That's massive. You're going to lose a lot of resources. If he deletes that, he's not going to get the full refund at all. He deletes it, doesn't get the full refund at all. Snipes out the siege, actually, with some of the horsemen. Great play. Cataphracts aren't here just yet. Lansknecht, going to get massive swings on their swords on those villagers. Absolutely decimated. Doesn't necessarily have quite enough in this position. He's still waiting for the ringing guards. Coming in on the right side with a couple of horsemen. But where are those cataphracts? They need to be here. Might lose a couple of these Chirosyphons for free. But ringing guards holding that front line. Oh no. Oh no, Gully. He lost it. He lost the keep. That's massive. Absolutely huge. He tried to place the foundations. I'm not sure if it was deleted, but he definitely lost resources at the very least. And those Chirosyphons, whilst they didn't achieve too much, I mean, it didn't feel like they did, but they actually kind of did a lot of those damage on the keep, surprisingly enough. Got a lot of value from that side of things. But here they any cataphracts need to get across the map. They're not the fastest cavalry on the field, but they'll do a job if they get there. Looking to decap the Sextet. No, he's still got it there. Tired Soldier kept hold of it, and he's back up against the wall with these palisades, but he's going to buy him time, and the cataphracts might just dive on this. But it just managed to retreat behind the walls. Looks like the wood line is being poked and prodded, but I mean, the horsemen are still getting value with getting 20 gold per villager kill. Certainly a very nice one. Cataphracts, they're healing on up with the Triumph ability. That's the huge thing about Triumph, right? These units have such a massive pool of HP that until they kill, the Triumph is actually going to make them just really live a long time and do a lot of damage. And even with the number of crossbows, they're just going to charge on in. Great champ wall ability there from the Cataphracts right on top of those English units, and they're getting absolutely decimated. So you have to back away here, Gully. Unfortunately, he doesn't really have any siege to dish out all sorts of damage with either. He's going to get defensive keep. Lovely reaction, actually. Just to make sure he's safe and secure. But it feels like maybe Tired Soldier might move on out. Trying to get a bit of raiding here, Gully, with a couple of units. Not a bad idea. The trouble is that these cataphracts, they are super tanky. Oh, Lansknecht. They're doing a job on these man-at-arms. Villagers, hero villagers, keeping the walls alive. And does have a bombard though, Gully. So he's cleared up a little bit of the middle, and he's going to work on that keep. He does have access to gold on the west side. It feels like at this point, maybe it might be worth just over-mining the gold, because he might run out of position soon. Especially if the second wave comes out for the Byzantines. Look Look at these counterfracts. They're ready to pounce soon. He's getting stone walls just to make sure he can move out. I think that's kind of a key issue for Gully. Like, he's going to find it difficult to raid with these stone walls available now. Protecting the Byzantines. He's cleared up the raids and he moves on out. Look at the army though. This is the thing. The production capabilities for the Byzantines are absolutely insane. Look at the bank of food. Looking good. Keep is under fire. That keep position will be lost, at least in terms of the actual structure, but the army is here for the Byzantines. Wasn't able to save the keep, but he might charge on him with the counterfacts on the bombard. Quite possibly. We'll have to see on this one. Use it, use it, use the trample. He's going to use it. It doesn't really need to. Oh, he might now. He might now. There's a beautiful trample on the units. Gets right on top of the back line, and horseman diving on the front. There's ringing guards as well. He's going to jump on top of this. Triumph ability activated. It's such a strong ability in this scenario. Mangonel kind of caught off guard, gets sniped by the counterfacts. Man-at-Arms still in good numbers. Counterfacts just picking off some reinforcements. I mean, I think they should be okay, although maybe the horseman diving on in. That's definitely going to help challenge that bombard and take it down. I think bombard's probably going to go, so massive damage was... The Byzantines might not necessarily win this fight overall. He's picked off a lot of siege engines, and that's huge. Defender's advantage certainly helping out the English in this position where there's plenty of outposts. I'm not sure it does have... Yeah, it doesn't really have any emplacements in them just yet. But look at the production. He's replaced the army in a blink of an eye. And Gally Deckel, he's starting to be overrun a little bit. The constant waves on the Byzantine army heading on forward, that's a lot of ringing guards. They might just decide to berserk their way through. Charging of the counterfacts right on top of the siege engine. The Mangonel goes down super fast, and that's the power unit that they have. Ringing guards berserking their way through that front line massively. There is a group of crossbowmen for the English, protected by the English man-at-arms, but the ringing guards starting to work their way through. Counterfact numbers starting to dwindle ever so slightly, actually. Only 3 remain, but they've definitely got some good value overall, taking a lot of siege engines. It looks like hand cannoneers added into the mix for the Byzantines. A great power late game unit for sure. They help take care of those man-at-arms. Ringing guards still holding on, but this is looking a little bit dicey for Gully. Look at the military... Oh my god, look at that batch of ringing guards heading forward for the Byzantines. Production superiority, absolutely phenomenal. Soldier coming on through from the south, right through the middle of the map, and pushing on in. And well, he's starting to be overrun here. Not looking good. There's the mass production. He doesn't have enough. Gully, he doesn't have enough food income either. He's not been able to sustain the defense, and the Byzantines, they're rocking on through. Great usage of the counterfacts, great usage of the ringing guards, and it looks like, oh, look at that massive horde of horsemen coming on through. Once again, unit numbers, absolutely phenomenal. The Byzantines keep pumping out units, and they're going to be great to deal with the crossbows, I've got to say. Lovely switch, actually, for the horsemen, going for it. Going to focus on the crossbows and whatever remains coming out for the English. He's going to raid with the horsemen as well, and the production going in the forward position, it's going to be difficult to establish that, actually. And this is the big mass we see now for the Byzantines. Ringing guards, hand cannoneers, and the Cairo siphons. It looks like Gully Deckel, he's trying to hold on, but those horsemen peeling around the back. Bear in mind, every villager he kills, he gets 20 gold, which is going to be huge. He needs that gold. And everything behind it is being torched. Great play by the Byzantines. It's going to be hard to hold here for Gully. The Byzantines at full population capacity. They've got full map control as well now. Another horde of units. And there's no way stopping this raiding. I mean, yeah, sure, he's got the White Tower and 2 town centres, but there's just too many units. And if he can't defend, I mean, the issue is if he's having to deal with the raids, he can't fight these forward positions. Even a counterfact or 2 sprinkled in. But huge number of ringing guards. They're probably going to be berserking their way through, and the production that's only just been established itself just now, probably about to be burned down to the ground in a crisp. Soldier activates that triumph ability, and that might just be what sees him being triumphant in the game. Ringing guards do berserk their way through. Gully with his back towards the ropes. He's at sort of 100 population now, which is not really what at this stage of the game. And yeah, now he's going to be starting to be overrun. This could be the last stand here. This group of infantry units. Horsemen diving on in. And they're going to try and raid. They're going to ignore the infantry units, pull them back, and then allow the follow-up ringing guards to torch their way through. That's exactly what's going to happen. He's Gully. He doesn't have the army, and he won't be able to make it with the production so far forward and being... Yeah, every unit that pops out, they're going to be sniped pretty quickly. He's being raided around the back. Tries to get a panic keep at the back, but again, he might get it up. Look how many villages have been lost because of it. He's killed 99 villagers overall in the game so far, Tired Soldier. And it's hard to manage here for Gully. He's trying to hold on as best he can. He needs to keep those farms working, ideally, to get the food and gold. The problem for him is he doesn't have much wood to replace things. He's going to lose the relic inside the monastery as well. And he's very much under siege. It feels like it's going to be tricky to hold this one for sure. I don't think he can anymore. And the keep is going to be built very slowly. The trouble is having to use villages to build it means he can't gather food, can't gather gold. And he doesn't have the economy. And he won't have the production before too long. A couple of man-at-arms still alive for the English, trying to hold that line, but this number of units, just sheer units, it doesn't even necessarily matter what type of units anymore. Just the sheer numbers of them. 2 Cairo siphons, burning things down. Oh, a couple of Varangian guards, not really fighting though, they really should be. They were resting a little bit. Yeah, looks like this is going to be the final fight. Don't think Gully can hold this wave. Berserking Varangian guards could be what seals the deal. Soldier coming in from the south. He takes the game on dry Arabia. Tired Soldier, a great action-packed game of Age of Empires 4 with the Byzantines ruling the roost, ruling the lands, and Tired Soldier made Gully Deckle tired, made him tap out. Hope you guys enjoyed this casted game on YouTube, and if you did, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Take care, and see you next time.